Chapter 95, A Small Exchange 2/2. Translator, Strivon. Liu Tao stood outside the door of a room in Area A that was second only to the VIP floor in luxury. He hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he still pushed his way inside. The lighting in the room was dim. It seemed that not all of the lights were turned on. Only one wall lamp was on in the corner of the resting area. Two scantily clad women were lying there in a daze. Flesh overlapped with flesh. They seemed to be sleeping, but were not. Clearly, they had taken drugs. Liu Tao's brows furrowed deeply when he saw this scene. "You stupid idiot. You said you didn't want to mingle here any longer. Did you really believe that Yin was running a brothel?" He thought again from a different angle. Huang Bingzhen really did have a bit of intellect for not bringing these two girls to the VIP area. Liu Tao tried to use this reasoning to convince himself, but then he turned around. His eyes had already adapted to the dim lighting of the room, making the fuzzy human silhouette in the operating area distinguishable and clear. He was instantly struck stupid by the sight. He absolutely should not have counted on this moron. Huang Bingzhen was wearing a tactical helmet and waving his arms in the dim operating area. His body staggered and swayed as he went around in circles at the center. This son of a B*TCH was completely naked. Besides his helmet, this guy's done for. Liu Tao always felt that playing with women and finding fun all the time was to be expected for people like them. Pampered rich kids born with a golden spoon. But there had to be a limit. This was already absurd and reckless beyond this planet. A fellow that constantly thought of greater thrills beyond his limits was bound to not live a long life. People like Huang Bingzhen were addicted to alcohol, taking drugs, and playing with women of all sorts. Additionally, these people always spend money on the newest and latest things. If left completely unchecked, would mean tormenting oneself to death sooner or later. In fact, Huang Bingzhen was pretty much at this stage. Ever since this fellow joined some order within the Mystic Arts Research Society, he was able to find some sense of eternity from his own absurdly degenerate lifestyle. He was fine most of the time, but once his lips tasted alcohol and drugs, his brain reverts back to a realm of complete inhumanity. If the Huang family did not have such a high investment stake in the Mystic Arts Research Society, if this guy did not have an iron ballot to discuss business, especially in the crucial moment in the bidding competition over gear, Liu Tao would not even be involved with this guy. It was very ball-breaking for Liu Tao. Liu Tao was wondering whether or not to call out to this madman when Huang Bingzhen called out first, with an "ah." Huang Bingzhen kneeled entirely on the ground and kowtowed over and over. Then he laughed oddly. The sound of his laughter squeezed out from his helmet. The stuffiness of the sound was quite agitating. "Pervert!" Liu Tao was quite startled by this shout, jumping a small step back. Because of this, Huang Bingzhen discovered him. This guy was kneeling on the ground as he turned to look at Liu Tao. The visor of the pitch-black helmet blocked his face. It was both comical and eerie. "Taoster, can you not come up with such a clever plan? These fellows are all being hauled away one by one." Liu Tao had yet to process his words. At that moment, the operating area was illuminated by the rays of a projector, displaying a few images. It was the situation inside an escorting police car. Within it, Liu Tao was able to see a few faint familiar faces of those who had the contention with Huang Bingzhen just a moment ago. These were all captured by the camera on the body of some thug, allowing Huang Bingzhen to follow the entire process of the conflict from beginning to end. This sort of method was learned from Li Xuecheng. However, from Huang Bingzhen's perspective, he had yet to reach Li Xuecheng's level of methods. Liu Tao thought of Luo Nan when he saw the situation, his mind getting tangled in a knot. He replied indifferently, "What you wanted was to have them separated. Right now, there are a few young ladies left behind, right? Whatever happens next is your business. It has nothing to do with me." Though he said these words, when he saw that Huang Bingzhen was not eager to make a move and do some nasty things, he let out a hidden breath of relief. Bull crap, they're not alone. Their brother follows them around like a shepherd. Hey, what happened to the others? Huang Bingzhen finally discovered that Liu Tao was by himself and was rather unhappy. Liu Tao rubbed his wristband unconsciously, laughing. They all drank themselves silly. How could they possibly come over? Who says we're not coming over? The door behind Liu Tao was opened with great force. He Yueyin and a few others came stumbling and bursting in. He blurted, "You two are so sneaky. What the heck are you up to?" Crap, Liu Tao felt sick all over. He had snuck his way over here, hiding it from He Yueyin and the others. He did this for the sake of hiding the fact that Luo Nan was involved in these matters. He needed space to work and save the situation. But these drunkards came crashing over. It would be bad for Liu Tao to change his stance. How could he control the situation? Huang Bingzhen glanced at Liu Tao's face with suspicion in his mind, but soon became excited by the sudden increase in the number of people in the room. He did not look into Liu Tao too much. "It's all good now that y'all are here, you sons of B*T Ches. You guys always say, I research those weird and mystical things. Let me widen y'all's knowledge right now, just who will be the true master in the future era. The bull crap you have now is nothing. They should have long been swept into the trash." He Yueyin, in his extreme excitement, completely disregarded the boos from He Yueyin and the others. He already started speaking nonsense as his arms and legs danced. "And over there, the two over there." He was referring to the two drugged-up girls. The problem was that they were really out of it. How could they respond? Huang Bingzhen cursed and ran over. He hooked his arms beneath them and forcefully hauled the two girls over under Liu Tao's and the others' incredulous gazes. He placed them on the two left and right sides of the operating area. "It can't be. He has this much strength from taking drugs." Liu Tao was stupefied watching. The two girls had to weigh 80 to 100 kilograms total, and they were half unconscious. They did not know how to coordinate. They could only act as dead weight. But this weakling Huang Bingzhen was actually able to carry one girl in each hand and forcefully haul them over. If he had this strength during the conflict with Luo Nan, the situation back then would not have been that bad, right? Liu Tao also noted that Huang Bingzhen had placed the girls down with particular attention. Each one had their own coinciding corner. It was not a random placement. Huang Bingzhen's actions were very clear. Even though He Yueyin was drunk, he was able to see it. Someone laughed. "Lo hey, what are you up to? Gonna play some ritual? I've heard that there's a certain someone who still can't draw a complete magical spell, even though it has been many years since he entered the society. All you amateurs shut up. In this era, how stupid is it to play around with drawing and strokes? Having this is enough for me." Huang Bingzhen waved his hand, and the video of the police car was cleared away. Then he snapped his fingers, and a large projection instantly covered the center of the operating area. Triangles, pentagrams, hexagrams, circles, and various mystical and enigmatic symbols were joined together to form a three-dimensional figure. It was like an enormous cake that was made from several layers that instantly enveloped everyone within. Snow white, hidden indigo, dark green, dark gold, and various colors were projected blurred in front of everyone's eyes. Liu Tao was able to see what seemed to be the figure of gears in front of him. They were joined together and turning. The feeling they engendered was indescribable. "What are you playing at?" Such an intense light had lit up the dim room, making He Yueyin feel dazzled by the sight. He adjusted his drunkard eyes by squinting and was a bit confused. "Playing? Fine, I guess I am playing. Let's play with a small exchange experiment for preparations of the holy exchange in the future." Huang Bingzhen took off his helmet, exposing a face that was completely flushed red. This color even permeated his pupils. Mixed with the blurred, colorful glow of the surroundings, those eyes appeared mottled and devilish. Meeting Huang Bingzhen's eyes made Liu Tao shudder. This kind of mottling was the same kind as Luo Nan. Chapter 96, Summoning a Holy Object, Part 1-2. Translator, Strivon. The stifling feeling flashed, which made Liu Tao's brain vacant for some time. The fingers on his wristband instinctively moved and worked. His wristband silently vibrated and started its video recording function. Liu Tao eventually came to. By this time, he did not have any thoughts of changing things. He saw the magical spell projected around Huang Bingzhen tremble and rotate. Huang Bingzhen even reached out his hand to touch the virtual fake lines of the structure, as if caressing the tender skin of a beautiful woman. His face was completely intoxicated. "Just look, this is the holy space." Everyone else in the room was dumbfounded. They were completely unable to follow this lunatic's thought process. Huang Bingzhen found great pride in seeing everyone's expressions, yet he was also a bit frustrated at their lack of appreciation. As such, he was happy to spend some words to give all these ignorant fools an explanation. "Do you know what I've built? Do you know what it's used for?" Huang Bingzhen continued to gesticulate about, regardless of whether they wanted to listen. "The holy space is a mystical domain to realize the exchange. In here, you can relinquish something and use it to exchange for something else of equal value. Through this mutual exchange, the most perfect, most exquisite balance in the universe can be obtained. Such a marvelous domain, supported by modern technology, just needs one thing in order to be established." "What is that thing? What is it?" Huang Bingzhen pointed his finger at He Yueyin, at Liu Tao, and the others one after another. None of them were neglected, but no one interacted with him. Everyone was still in a state of stupefaction. "You morons are beyond redemption. You're supposed to say magic spells." "Aha, well that's wrong. It's a seed, a seed." Huang Bingzhen was able to have a great time fooling around by himself, but He Yueyin and the others felt like that they had been suddenly pulled on stage while watching a preposterous play. They were now awkward participants. Huang Bingzhen did not have any self-awareness in regards to this. "We just need to obtain a seed to build a foundation upon. We sprout the seed utilizing the fixed system mold, and the holy space is built. The holy object can be sustained within. Now where do we get the seed? Tauster, you must know the answer." He was actually called upon. Liu Tao really wanted to slap Huang Bingzhen's face to see if he'll wake up from the blow, but when faced with those eyes, Liu Tao felt a bit of terror. He could only laugh awkwardly. "My mind is a blank at the moment." "Stupid, you've plucked these seeds before." Huang Bingzhen was just like a musical conductor, radiating with passion. With a wave of his arm, a video appeared clearly in front. It showed the thugs deliberately provoking and starting the brawl. He swept his hand across the projection and grasped, seemingly seizing something out from the void. He waved his fist in indication towards Liu Tao. Liu Tao was able to approximately guess what Huang Bingzhen was saying. The so-called seed was obtained from the brawl just now. What the heck was this thing? Liu Tao admitted that he really could not follow what Huang Bingzhen was thinking. His brain is messed up on drugs. What the heck are you guys up to? Even He Yueyin, who was in a state of stupor, felt that something was off at this moment. His gaze swept towards Liu Tao. From his perspective, Liu Tao had come here before him. It was easier to talk with Liu Tao, and Liu Tao ought to know more about the situation. Liu Tao hesitated for a moment. It was very clear that he did not want to talk. He just spoke vaguely. A group of people made him suffer previously. He's not mentally well. I don't know what kind of wild thoughts he's having. Him suffering, he'll make his way back. What's he being tormented over? Who did who offend? That person isn't sufficient to make things this bad. At least in Huang Bingzhen's mind, there was no concept of Luo Nan as a ticking time bomb. Only God would know why Huang Bingzhen chose to do things in this manner than to use simpler and more direct methods. Come to think of it, if he was actually able to understand Huang Bingzhen's thought process, wouldn't that make him crazy as well? Liu Tao shrugged with a look of frustration. He Yueyin saw that he would not be able to get an answer from Liu Tao, so he stumbled forward to pull Huang Bingzhen by the shoulder. Junior Huang, don't make things so abstract. If you have something to say, speak it plainly. If there are things to be handled, frick. He Yueyin had come up to Huang Bingzhen with good intentions, yet Huang Bingzhen pushed him away. It was impossible for He Yueyin to maintain his balance in his state. He immediately fell to the ground on his butt and was stunned on the spot. Hey Huang Bingzhen, there's no point in you acting like this. Another drunkard wanted to do something for He Yueyin. They had a good relationship. However, Huang Bingzhen's mottled and devilish pupils swept over and stared dead straight at his face in the next moment. Silence. Though the experiment is small, it is still holy. You were the noisiest one out of all of us just now. He Yueyin struggled to get up from the ground. He shouted, "This fellow has overdosed on drugs. Grab him, wake him up." Everyone had similar family backgrounds, but Frost River reality could be barely considered He Yueyin's domain. He was the owner, so it was best to listen to him. Several drunks began rolling up their sleeves, eager to take action. They took the chance to howl as they charged up. Liu Tao hesitated for a moment before following behind them. Though Huang Bingzhen's strength right now was unusually great, there was a limit. It was impossible for him to withstand several people working together. Arms flailed in the air. Legs sprawled out in a mess. There wasn't a place to get good footing. Eyes seemed to drip with blood. In the end, he had no choice. He could only yell hoarsely, "Please, holy object, please, holy object." Nobody cared for the so-called holy object. The correct course of action was to wake this kid up. He Yueyin turned his head looking all around. Do we have any suppressants? This kid doesn't care about his life at all. Huh. He Yueyin's voice suddenly cut off. Liu Tao, who was the most sensitive, quickly turned his head towards the sound. In the center of the magical spells, Liu Tao saw marvelous black and white lines intertwine and weave. They assembled together into a construct. A structure gradually formed. It was similar to a classical hanging balance scale and was half of a person's height. The scale contained a black pan and a white pan. each settling to its respective side. A smooth arc appeared in the middle of the support frame, balancing the pans together. Right in the center was what appeared to be a carving of a Western crown. It was unknown what flower it was based on, but 8 sharp engraved leaves spread open in a ring. Atop the center of the crown were 6 gems arranged into 2 rows. Each gem was a different color with dark dews. The overall shape looked bizarre yet beautiful. At this time, the structure was divided into 3 sections. The center frame, the black pan with its black connective chain, and the white pan with its white connective chain. The pans were hoisted up, even subtly swaying in the process. It was as if the structure was real. "I think I've heard of this before," He Yueyin scratched his head. "It must be the scales of truth." Liu Tao knew a little bit about it. This so-called holy object was not only quite influential in the Mystic Arts Research Society, it was also quite famous in the wealthy circles of Xia City. However, Liu Tao was just not interested in these mystical and mysterious things. He never truly tried understanding them before. Looking at things now, it seemed like he really did look down on the scales of truth. In any case, this object had at least some ability to make an ordinary person retarded. Huang Bingzhen grew even more crazed when he saw the scales of truth appear. He shouted as he struggled, "The fairness of the world, the truth of fairness. The requirements for the daily exchange of goods has been satisfied as defined by the holy command. Perform the exchange. Perform the exchange. Can you calm down, oh frick?" One of the drunkards had slapped Huang Bingzhen on the cheek quite heavily, but Huang Bingzhen bit him with a growl. The drunkard shrieked, and blood was spilled. He started to curse very angrily when a sudden jolt went through his body. He lowered his head and was met with the sight of sharp arthropod limb piercing out through his chest. It was unknown whether this sight was virtual or real. Chapter 96, Summoning a Holy Object, Part 2-2. Translator Strivon. The social order grew more and more chaotic in the reception hall of Frost River Reality. Many people were drawn to the scene by the police's arrival. The effects of the brawl were brewing. Frost River Reality's personnel had quite the headache over this matter. The people in charge were constantly negotiating with the police, wishing for the police to quickly take away everyone who was part of the brawl and end the incident. However, the police still needed to conduct some scene investigation work. Tianxi was also one of the parties. This petite school girl was constantly trying to communicate with the police. The 3 parties, Frost River Reality, the police, and Tianxi, were impeding each other. This deadlock lasted for some time. When Luo Nan and the others went out, the scene that they saw was none other than this. Chen Xiaolin finished talking with Xu Lei and had arrived by Luo Nan's side. Her expression was actually a bit affectionate. Lista called his dad. "It seems like the old man's on duty tonight. He just received a dispatch to come right here. This is too much of a coincidence." Luo Nan was astonished and baffled. His father is a special police officer. He's also taking part in an issue of public order such as this. It seems that they've been constantly on a state of alert ever since the explosion in the R&D district. All issues of public order in the city center have been escalated in priority. Mo Qiu was feeling quite ambivalent at the side. It was great to be able to find a way to resolve the problem, but the current situation placed him in an awkward predicament. He noticed that Chen Xiaolin, a mature young woman, had been discussing matters with Luo Nan ever since proposing the plan to handle the situation. He was the oldest and most experienced of the bunch, yet he had become a side character. Was it because these two were very familiar with each other? It was not that Chen Xiaolin was ignoring Mo Qiu's minor sensitivities. Although her traumatizing encounter at Limestone Water Village pub left behind serious mental scars, it still made her understand that Luo Nan's identity was not as simple as an ordinary high school freshman. Luo Nan had looked upon that intense and terrifying scene as if it was something completely natural. This situation was practically nothing in comparison. She was naturally drawn to discussing matters with the one who was best able to maintain his composure. Chen Xiaolin's eyes shifted around as she spoke, her vision sweeping over several tall and sturdy special police officers wearing exoskeleton armor. However, all the special police officers wore completely enclosed tactical helmets. There were not any clear markings on their armors either. She was unable to tell which one of these officers was Xu Lei's dad. Perhaps he was still at the Area A site. On the other hand, Luo Nan did not really try looking for Lista's dad. If his dad wanted to help, then he would contact them. If he did not want to help, finding him would be pointless. As such, Luo Nan headed towards the police cars after observing the situation. He wanted to see how Mo Peng and the others were doing. This brawl was a little weird, no matter how one looked at it. Luo Nan wanted to get a step closer to understanding what had happened. He was 7 or 8 steps away from the police car, containing the participants of the brawl, when he was stopped by an ice-cold metal arm. It was none other than a special police officer who was nearly 2 meters tall. This officer towered above him and emitted a not-so-benevolent aura from behind the pitch-black armor. Ahead of you is a restricted area. You can't come any closer. The special police officer's deep voice came buzzing out from behind the helmet. Luo Nan did his best to put on a juvenile expression befitting his age. "Officer, my older brother's inside. I came with him here together." "Is that so?" The special police officer blocking the way made a gesture to those behind him. Immediately a comrade came running over asking, "Captain." "Captain." The special police officer gave a command the instant Luo Nan was in his stupefaction. "Give the hospital a heads up to first get some urine samples from these people and then perform drug tests. Their behavior was extreme. It is uncertain if drugs are the cause." How on earth did he reach this kind of conclusion? Luo Nan could only laugh bitterly in great astonishment. Meanwhile, his mental senses cut through the visor with just a spurring of his mind. He was confirming something. And at nearly the same time, the special police officer blocking him opened up his helmet to reveal the angular face of a middle-aged man. "You're Luo Nan's." "Officer Xu, uncle." Though the tone was rather different, the calmness and decisiveness within was exactly the same. Luo Nan felt that things were a bit awkward. This special police officer in front of him was none other than the officer Xu who had personally arrested him due to the matter of Xi Jinping's phantom flying car carrying illegal drugs. That was the first time Luo Nan had ever been arrested. His impressions of the time ran quite deep. He even remembered this officer's name. His name was Xue Weilun. The last name Xue was quite rare, with only one family with the name of Xue in Xia City. When this fact was combined with their current location and the post of this officer held, Luo Nan was certain that this burly police officer was absolutely Xue Lei's father. This officer was also the person who they were requesting help from. Xia City really was quite small. Luo Nan observed Officer Xu once more. Compared to his first impression of this officer, he was able to find more similarities Xu Lei had with his dad. It was a verification of sorts. However, it seemed that Officer Xu's first impression of Luo Nan did not have much of a positive effect. Xue Weilun's brows creased as his stare locked onto Luo Nan. It was as if he was gazing at an escaped criminal. On that day, Luo Nan had been uncommunicative after being detained. He had an obstinate appearance of being uncooperative. The impressions Xue Weilun had of Luo Nan ran deep. Luo Nan looked to be a bit more open and carefree today. He was still reserved, though. Lista said that you're his good friend. How long have you two known each other? Since last week. Luo Nan felt that it was very likely that he would be interrogated by Officer Xu to make sure that Xu Lei was not making friends with criminals. Luckily, his wristband vibrated during this moment of headache. He immediately whispered his apologies and went to check the message on his wristband. The situation was alleviated from its tenseness and awkwardness. The message actually came from Liu Tao. It was not an instant message, but rather an audio file. What the heck was that guy up to? Luo Nan subconsciously opened the audio file, and immediately an extremely exaggerated voice came out. The holy space is the mystical realm where the exchange is realized. What followed was the unending preaching of this voice. There was something about magical spells, seeds, holy objects, and similar jargon. They came rolling out one after another. Words exchanged between He Yueyin and Liu Tao was even mixed within. From this, Luo Nan was able to extrapolate that Huang Bingzhen was the source of these neurotic preachings. When Luo Nan had just figured this out, an upheaval occurred within the recording. From within, the series of confusing words suddenly leaped a certain sensitive term. The scales of truth. Luo Nan was suddenly excited. Then he heard the fairness of the world, the truth of fairness, and so on. The answer was clear as day. The order of justice. This secret order has such a high profile. It certainly did not live up to the definition of secret order. At the same time, Luo Nan finally discovered that this recording had been playing for far too long. Xue Weilun was to the side, not really caring. On the contrary, he listened very seriously and very openly. Luo Nan was a bit embarrassed. Xue Weilun was not an ability user. It was reasonable to say that Luo Nan should not have let him hear this information. The following few seconds all involved Huang Bingzhen's exchange, and similar crazed shouts combined with sounds of a struggle. Luo Nan was just about to transfer playback over to his internal earbuds when a sharp and terrifying tone came engulfing everything right at this moment. Spider! Spider! Luo Nan's thoughts wandered in that moment, but he forcefully recollected himself. The recording stopped at this point. Luo Nan's expression turned extremely ugly. He immediately gave Liu Tao a call, but no one answered him. He switched to calling He Yueyin. The outcome was the same. Luo Nan did not keep still while he was calling. He had turned around and started heading inside. Xue Weilun's expression had long since changed. Seeing that Luo Nan was heading inside, his original intent was to grab him. However, he hesitated when his arm reached out halfway. He did not stop Luo Nan. Instead, he caught up to him with large strides. Chapter 97, Arachnid's Intermediary 1/2. Translator, Strivon. Luo Nan quickly walked through the reception hall and headed towards the VIP elevator. On the way, he entered the Society's special channel regarding the Human-Faced Arachnid and reported that there was a situation. There had been many reports related to the human-faced arachnid in Xia City last week. However, Luo Nan was one of the only 4 psychics of Xia City. He possessed special privileges within the society. As soon as he finished the report, He Yueyin already came to contact him. Mr. Luo, I've already dispatched personnel to the coordinates you've shared. The closest personnel will be able to get there within 5 minutes. Please stay on standby until then and do your best to avoid frontal contact with the target. I will be there in around 30 minutes. I'm verifying the status of the situation. Right now, I only have a conjecture, not a real confirmation. Luo Nan had learned some jargon, and he spat them out one after another. You're not suited to engage in relevant missions in your current physical condition. Therefore, please, your number 1 task should be to ensure your own safety. I understand. I have a veteran special police officer by my side. During the conversation, Luo Nan had already entered the VIP elevator. This time, he did not have Bai Xinyan's temporary privileges, but this was not a problem. It looked like Frost River Reality had promoted the level of his account. It seemed that He Yueying's reputation was quite useful. He had been quite comprehensive in helping out. Luo Nan really did not want to see something bad happen to He Yueying. Xue Weilun silently followed him into the elevator. His identity as a police officer gave him privileges to move in and out of scenes of incidents. The two were locked together in the closed elevator. Both wanted to speak, yet the elevator stopped at the VIP floor before one of them could. The elevator door opened. The first thing that Luo Nan saw were the 2 guides, one with long hair and one with short hair. The 2 were quite astonished when they saw that Luo Nan had come back. Mr. Luo, did you forget something? The 2 guides soon saw the tall and bulky officer Xue behind him. They immediately knew that something was off. They were speechless for some time. Luo Nan disregarded their thoughts and directly asked, "Is Senior Hu still in the same room?" The 2 guides looked at each other, hesitantly replying, "Mr. Hu and his friends have already gone downstairs." "Downstairs? I didn't see them." Luo Nan estimated that the situation he had heard through the recording happened at least 10 minutes ago. At that time, he was still at the guide stand of the large hall. The stand and the VIP elevator were not that far apart. How could a group of drunks boisterously come over without him noticing at all? They took a different elevator directly to Area A. Area A, Luo Nan muttered to himself a bit and said, "Where's Huang Bingzhen's room? You 2 recognize this name, right?" "Mr. Huang." It looked like the guides recognized him from the situation. "Mr. Huang didn't go to the VIP area today." "Area A then. Area A also has private rooms, right? Can you help me look it up?" The 2 guides revealed pained expressions, especially when they saw the giant behind Luo Nan. The 2 talked amongst themselves for a moment before calling another contact. They asked Luo Nan to answer. "Hello, Mr. Luo. I am Yin Le." Manager Yin. Luo Nan never thought that the 2 guides would directly bring this character out. However, this was still within the realm of reason. He thought about Yin Le's other special identity and was forced to consider things carefully. Yin Le held a very calm attitude. "I am at Cloud City Water Village right now. I don't understand the situation over there. Mr. Luo, can you explain for a moment?" Luo Nan was stupefied for a moment. Was he just going to say, "Hey, so I discovered traces of a human-faced arachnid and the Order of Justice in your territory. Can you folks from the Bloodflame Order cooperate with us and help us find them?" Though matters of the Order of Justice had nothing to do with the Blood Flame Order. Luo Nan knew that things weren't simple from his week's observation of the Blood Flame Order through the Wraith Sign's perspective. He was getting a bit of a headache now. Yin-La still maintained her calmness, even though Luo Nan did not respond to her immediately. She asked leisurely if Mr. Luo doesn't have any pressing matters. Our business has a specialty team dedicated to handling troublesome matters. Mr. Luo can inform them of the situation. I believe that the situation can be properly settled. Luo Nan knew that Yin-La was trying to pass him over. However, right as he was pondering about what to say, Officer Xu held down his arm and inserted himself into the call. Hello, Manager Yin. I am Captain Xue Weilun of the Special Police Group, directly under the Police Department of Xia City. The police number and relevant evidence can be sent to you through the internet. Currently, I am at your site, where a vicious conflict incident has occurred. I suspect that this matter has something to do with your customer, Huang. I hope that your side is able to cooperate with the police and release the relevant privileges to make it easy for the police to handle this emergency. Thank you for your cooperation. Xue Weilun was actually able to say such a long paragraph in a single breath, and he said it with such toughness and determination. His words were distinct and recognizable. Yin-La clearly went quiet before responding. We will fully support the work of the police. The call was then hung up. Luo Nan understood that this time he had committed a great offense, equivalent to death towards Yin-La. However, he very much approved of Xue Weilun's method of using decisive action in this complex situation. The two people no longer tarried. They followed the directions of the two guides to go through another non-stop elevator and entered Area A, where Huang's room was located. In just a short minute, the police already took over Frost River Reality's monitoring system under Xue Weilun's command. They promptly locked onto the target. Luo Nan and Xue Weilun arrived at the luxurious room. There were already 5 or 6 special police officers in position. They separated all the gawking customers from the surroundings and were poised for action. They were ready to break in at any time. When seeing this scene, Luo Nan yelled F***K in his mind. These special police officers were a little bit stronger than ordinary people at best, wearing their exoskeleton armors. However, if there really was a human-faced arachnid involved, these special police officers would be completely useless. There was also Xue Weilun in particular. How could Luo Nan watch Xue Lei's father face danger right in front of his eyes? He unconsciously tried to squeeze his body through, but he was stopped by Xue Weilun. Then a special police officer forcefully pushed him behind a restricted line. Luo Nan struggled for an instant and saw the special police officers in front of him face Xue Weilun and perform a few hand gestures that he was unable to read. Xue Weilun then gave the order to break through. The door to the room was pushed open, and several special police officers came pouring in. Luo Nan glared at the special police officer behind him and struggled free when the officer was distracted. Luo Nan headed inside the room. Xue Weilun's brows furrowed when he saw Luo Nan charging inside. He did not say much about his actions, he just asked, "Take a look. Are all of them here?" Actually, Luo Nan did not need to look. He had long since used his mental senses to scan the situation of the room from the outside. He knew what was going on. He Yueyin, Liu Tao, Huang Bingzhen, 3 other drunkards, and 2 girls he had never expected to be here. He nodded, but he did not give a fixed answer. "Everyone I recognize is here." Luo Nan's mental senses were constantly searching while he was speaking. However, he was unable to tell anything else from this pitch-black room. There was not a human-faced arachnid, which was the most key. There also was not the so-called holy space and the scales of truth. They had disappeared altogether. There were only 8 human bodies in deep comas. Chapter 97, Arachnid's Intermediary 2/2. Translator Strivon. Xue Weilun gestured with his hand to turn on the lights. His brows furrowed a bit further when he heard how fast Luo Nan had responded. You can see. Luo Nan only just realized that he was too used to using his mental clairvoyance for convenience. His lips had been loose as well. He had actually answered Xue Weilun's question with all the lights off in the room's operating area. It should be known that these special police officers were all equipped with tactical helmets that had night vision capabilities. Luo Nan did not have any special equipment on him whatsoever. I have good eyes, cough cough. Luo Nan's face went a bit red. He then had the urge to cough. He took this chance to be thick-skinned and force over this issue, while indicating to Officer Xue. Uncle Xue, all the lights in the operating area were turned off. 7 or 8 of the 10 of them were opened as projectors. Did you see this when you came in here? Nope, replied Xue Weilun in a simple manner. He thought that things were rather ridiculous. This 15, 16-year-old half-grown kid looked way too cool and collected. This kid was simply taking buckets of unwarranted suspicion and pouring it on his own head, though this kid did not look to be a fool either. This veteran special police officer was about to turn 50 this year. He could not help but have some mixed feelings. Kids these days can endure much more than we could back in the day. Their conversation had served as somewhat of a reminder of that. In the end, Officer Xue could not even make heads or tails of his own son. Additionally, Luo Nan did not reveal anything in his behavior so far to cause Officer Xue to feel ill will towards him. At the very least, Luo Nan was not an incurable good-for-nothing. Luo Nan did not notice Xue Weilun's good intentions. His mental senses covered the entire room, for he was endlessly collecting information. Of course, he paid particular attention to He Yueyin and the other unconscious people. He wanted to first make sure that they were not in any life-threatening danger. However, their current states were indeed very bizarre. When the lights were turned on, they were able to see the 2 females with their disheveled clothes compared to the 8 other people. The girls laid further away from the others. They were practically on the edge of the operating area. The 6 young masters were all collapsed and squeezed together in the center. Huang Bingzhen was stark naked, without anything covering him at all. He Yueyin, Liu Tao, and the rest were surrounding him in a circle. Their arms and legs were entangled with each other. Luo Nan was able to surmise a few things from the recording and the scene before his eyes. He Yueyin and the others were restraining the drug-overdosed Huang Bingzhen when the incident happened. The incident was sudden, happening in a flash. It had caused everyone to collapse. Mutual fear of various intensities still remained on most of their faces. They were not at peace, even though they were unconscious. It was as if they had sunk into a nightmare. The only exception was Huang Bingzhen. Although this fellow's face was buried within the pile of people, making it so that others were unable to see him clearly, it could not be hidden from the clairvoyance of Luo Nan's mental senses. He could see the completely relaxed expression that Huang Bingzhen possessed. He looked like he was sleeping normally. Was this the expression of someone that overdosed on drugs would possess? Luo Nan, having increased the precision of his mental senses, was able to observe their breathing, pulses, eyelid twitches, and other external indicators. He had some suspicion to what was going on, but he was not completely sure. He needed to carefully look at the details first. Officer Xu reached out with his arm to block him. "Don't destroy the scene of the incident. Wait for the investigators to arrive." Luo Nan tried to play dumb. "Aren't you an investigator? We are the special police. We are just involved in action." "Oh, but it seems like that there isn't anything wrong with their bodies. I've already called an ambulance. They will go through some drug tests." Luo Nan felt rather helpless. It looked like Uncle Xu may have felt that he was involved with psychotropic drugs. Luo Nan did not blame him, though. The two exposed girls, let alone Huang Bingzhen, had clear indicators of being overdosed on drugs. Returning back to the main topic, the two girls' appearances made Luo Nan more confident in his prior conclusion. This was the natural response of being overdosed on drugs. There was an issue with Huang Bingzhen's appearance, no matter how he looked at it. Additionally, it was an issue he was very familiar with. A light and serene coma. The last person to have encountered such a problem was Luo Nan himself. Luo Nan muttered to himself silently for a moment before suddenly accusing, "Uncle Xu, it's the guy in the middle. He and I had a contention an hour or so ago." "Tell it to the people of the Public Order Division when they arrive," grunted Xue Weilun. But then he inquired, "They're not your friends." "Only one can be considered a friend." Luo Nan pointed at He Yueyin, then his fingertips slanted towards the center and pointed. "As for this one, Huang Bingzhen, young Master Huang, he is way above my status." Xue Weilun's brows furrowed again behind the helmet. Was it a misperception? There was a subtle change within Luo Nan's speech. However, Xue Weilun was unable to concretely distinguish where the change was. "Huang Bingzhen." "That's correct, Huang Bingzhen. He is from the second generation of a wealthy family and is famous in our school. He's garbage, trash." Xue Weilun shook his head. "There's no point in telling me such things. I know, okay. These words were not directed at you in the first place." Luo Nan squinted his eyes. When the name Huang Bingzhen came out of his lips, the sound waves only traveled a few meters on the material plane before they began to dissipate. However, the corresponding information within the sound was spurred on by Luo Nan's intent through his soul's strength. The information spread rapidly on the mental plane, spreading past the range of his mental senses in the blink of an eye. This trick was something he had learned a few days ago from Mo Lun of the Bloodflame Order. Mo Lun had used this method to call the human-faced arachnid from far, far away. The covertness and exquisiteness that Mo Lun had displayed in this method exceeded Luo Nan's current performance by 100-fold. Right now, Luo Nan did not know how to conceal it. Besides, what he wanted as a result was such a diffusion. Now it was time to see what the response was like. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. A subtle tremor could be felt in his ear. A sharp, ill-willed voice cut in. "The heck are you yelling for? You bragging about being a mentally enhanced type. Half of Xia City heard you." The voice was familiar, yet it was not particularly familiar. Luo Nan was dumbfounded for a time, before realizing that the words had come through the psychic wave network of the hexagram. He mentally looked around and discovered that an avatar of a cat-eye gemstone had lit up in the encrypted channel set up exclusively for this operation, declaring who had spoken. In the end, Luo Nan finally remembered who this was. He did not respond until 2 seconds later due to some odd thoughts. Cat eyes. Luo Nan's thoughts were suddenly stimulated before his voice could fade away. A clear and powerful response had broken into the range of his mental senses in an extremely crude fashion. 10 meters of distance was not really that far. In the blink of an eye, the shadows of the void came seeping in from one end of the room's walls. Luo Nan was facing Xue Weilun at this time, and he deviated the angle of his gaze. Yet under the clairvoyance of his mental senses, he could see the situation that was unraveling as clear as with the naked eye. For it was occurring on the mental plane. The shadow of the void had yet to completely permeate through, but the mass of 6 different colored eyes in front and the ugly Calicera mouthparts had together formed the shape of a malevolent spider. Then there was the constant waving of 4 arthropod limbs. Some were being waved excessively excitedly, occasionally hitting its own body. They stirred minute undulations on the mental plane that caused one to feel unease. A round, plump stomach should have been protruding from the back, but it had turned into the flat chest and body of a human body. The back even had the outline of human legs, but most of it was still submerged within a dark, chaotic fog, making it look deformed and warped. This form was like a giant spider with half of its body fused to the back of a human. Its heavy weight pressed and broke the back of the human, transforming an ordinary human into a crooked and mutated monster. Human-Faced Arachnid. At least that's what it looked like on the surface. Chapter 98, Failed Goods 1/2. Translator Strivon. Luo Nan's heart thumped twice when he saw the human-faced arachnid collide inside. He was seriously a bit stunned. He had used his soul's strength to make a greeting. All he called out to was what he believed to be Huang Bingzhen in an out-of-body state. After all, Huang Bingzhen's current shallow and unconscious state was practically the same as Luo Nan's, back when he had his out-of-body state. He had speculated that Huang Bingzhen used the special methods of the Order of Justice, like the Holy Space, the Holy Exchange, and so on, to obtain the power to go into the out-of-body state. From Luo Nan's own experience, if one did not have an external force to help out, they would need to carefully ponder how to even move the first time their soul left their body. This fellow Huang Bingzhen could not have gotten far. Luo Nan had a clearer understanding of Huang Bingzhen's nature after their conflict earlier today, and after referring to Liu Tao's recording. Terminology such as a sheep in wolf's clothing, a bully who preys on the weak and fears the strong, and being carried away were meant specifically for such a person. He may have been scared by the sudden appearance of the city's special police force, was not adapted to the marvels of the incorporeal soul, and was scared into coming out. However, Frost River reality was jammed-packed with people. As long as Huang Bingzhen was not a fool, he would certainly discover the advantages of the out-of-body soul very quickly, and his self-confidence should have inflated. Luo Nan used some stimulation and some provocation in order to hook this fellow back. Luo Nan believed the success rate of this would be rather high. The situation unraveled quite similarly to how Luo Nan had imagined, but the degree of danger was on a completely different order of magnitude. Luo Nan instantly entered into the highest state of vigilance. He followed the principles of the society's provisions and tossed out, "A human-faced arachnid has appeared. He's heading for me in the encrypted channel." The dark chains shot out, unable to stay put with the pressure of soul's strength against his body. The chains spiraled around his body, making battle preparations. "What's wrong?" asked Xue Weilun to the side. The human-faced arachnid and the dark chains were all existences on the mental plane. Xue Weilun was unable to see them. However, Luo Nan had suddenly tensed up. Luo Nan was unable to hide his body language from Xue Weilun. Luo Nan turned his head at this time and faced the empty right side of the wall. His expression turned grim. He felt that a storm was brewing. Xue Weilun's words reminded him that there were several special police officers in the room. He silently screamed F***K as he knew he would be doubted. He shouted, "There's a problem with the room. Withdraw." Despite the huge difference in build, Luo Nan forcefully grabbed Xue Weilun's exoskeleton armor-covered arm as he spoke. He wanted to drag Xue Weilun outside. However, Luo Nan was unable to move him. Xue Weilun and his underlings were still. They were all confused by Luo Nan's neurotic-like reaction. They did not respond instantly. And at this time, the human-faced arachnid had already permeated through the wall completely. It was already close at hand. Indeed, this fellow had made Luo Nan his first target. Its 6 solid eyes locked onto Luo Nan's position, and it charged over like a crazed bull. Its 8 sharp blade-like limbs streaked across the void to slash Luo Nan's head and face. What? As he faced the human-faced arachnid, Luo Nan put nearly all of his energy to defend against the most probable attack that could happen, the siege hammer. He actually forgot to make a move against this attack that exceeded his expectations. "You idiot!" A vigorous and strong lioness-like figure forcefully made its way inside from close to the door of the room, through 2 sturdy special police officers. Its speed increased once again as it leaped several meters, and it collided against Luo Nan in this moment of peril, sending Luo Nan flying and narrowly avoiding the sharp long limbs of the arachnid. Luo Nan's eyes were bulging to the point of splitting after being flung out. This was because he could grasp what was going on very clearly through his mental senses. The sharp long limb had not cut Luo Nan, but it had taken the opportunity to press forward and pierce Xue Weilun through the chest and slash upwards. The limb cut into the helmet from below and came out through the top of the skull. Only now did Luo Nan fall to the ground. His entire spine was all numb from the collision. He slid backwards for 2 to 3 meters from the momentum, only stopping when he reached the edge of the operating area. He did not even have time to catch his breath, but he was doing his utmost to get up. Uncle Xue, whether it was through the naked eye or through the perception of his mental senses, Xue Weilun continued to stand there perfectly all right. His helmet turned to face Luo Nan's location. Luo Nan was a bit stiff while looking at Xue Weilun. This was due to the absurd scene before his eyes. It was as if nothing had happened to Xue Weilun's body. As for the human-faced arachnid, it was unable to put on its brakes after launching its Mad Bull charge and blade-cleaving attack. It simply charged straight to the edge of the room. Then it turned around and looked at the results of its attack. It looked to be a bit stunned. Luo Nan sat on the ground. He blinked his eyes. His brain was a bit stupid right now. Not too far away from Luo Nan was Cat Eyes. She wore camouflage pants and a baseball cap tilted to the side. She looked as if she had just been hip-hop dancing. She made a light roll and stood up, but she too was stupefied when facing the current situation. "Are you?" Xue Weilun felt like he was watching some absurd show. In an instant, a hip-hop girl had appeared with astonishing skill. He did not dare to wait around idly. It was only now that most of the special police officers in the room came too. They pulled out their guns one after another and pointed them to the hip-hop girl who had suddenly broken inside. Some of them even pointed their guns at Luo Nan. All of the threat they could feel only came from these two. "Put away your guns." Xue Weilun gave an order and then asked, "Luo Nan, what the heck are you two doing?" Luo Nan did not know how he should explain things for a time. His gaze shifted to the human-faced arachnid at the side of the room, and his mental senses locked firmly onto this enemy. He probed out several times, after which he could not help but find things problematic. From the aggressive appearance of the human-faced arachnid, Luo Nan had believed that it was fully matured, that it had manifested from nothingness to reality and entering the material plane. He had believed that it wanted to behead him. But the facts of the matter turned out to be different. The level of this human-faced arachnid's power was actually very ordinary. So ordinary that it could not have been stronger than the burning wraith that Luo Nan had encountered back in the day on the warship. So how stupid must it be for it to abandon its most optimal ability, try to use its formless existence to break through to the material plane, and use a material attack to resolve its issues. In fact, this fellow had been constantly trying to interfere with the material plane from the mental plane up until now. It was like an expanding balloon that was firmly set on pressing down into a body water. This sort of method had no functionality besides making it more eye-catching. Luo Nan finally understood why the human-faced arachnid's form was so clear. This fellow was spending most of its energy to mentally interfere with the material. The closer it was to the material plane, the more likely it was for people to perceive it. In the last operation, Cat Eyes was unable to see the human-faced arachnid, but her assist just now proved that she could already manage to determine the human-faced arachnid's location and timing. This sort of change had nothing to do with a growth in her ability. The target was different. The human-faced arachnid before their eyes was clearly totally different than others of its kind. The lighting in the room suddenly lit up amidst Luo Nan's thoughts. The projectors in the operating area suddenly lit up even though there was no one to control them. 5 different colors of light were cast into this area. Chapter 98, Failed Goods 2/2. Translator Strivon. There seemed to be something wrong with the projectors for the light, as they did not cast out any concrete images. It was like a mass of mottled glowing mist, and it covered the entirety of the operating area. It wrapped Luo Nan, Cat Eyes, Xue Weilun, 5 or 6 special police officers, and the 8 unconscious bodies within. Then the lighting suddenly changed, attracting the gazes of everyone within the room, but the one to have the most intense reaction was that stupid human-faced arachnid. The first instant the lighting interweaved, it charged forward once more. It did not target any specific person, but it directly burst into the expanding glowing mist. It hid its body within the mass of colored lights. This projection mist was certainly a screen meant for the human-faced arachnid. Cat Eyes muttered, "Crap." She was an ability user whose ability stemmed from perception. Being able to lock onto the target was what gave her the greatest sense of security. She had felt completely suffocated in the last human-faced arachnid hunting operation. Today, she had barely made progress. She never expected for it all to have gone down the drain. However, Cat Eyes was an experienced awakened. She changed her train of thought, and her gaze fell upon what had created the mottled colored light mist, the projector equipment. To pull the carpet from under the arachnid could be a decent option. Everyone withdraw. What's wrong with the system over there? Xue Weilun spoke loudly, his former words meant to those further ahead inside the room. He let them leave the projection area first. His later words were aimed towards the technical staff in charge of the room's monitoring system equipment and operations. He really did not like this kind of change. It made him feel that the situation was yet to be under the police's complete control. Cat Eyes was originally going to make a move when she heard Xue Weilun's order. She grumbled, "Idiot." Luo Nan coughed as he crawled up. He tried explaining for Xue Weilun's sake. "He doesn't know. I'm saying you're the idiot." Luo Nan found her behavior unfathomable. "Did I offend you?" However, it was quite likely thinking about it from another perspective. It must be known that her image had been left in the format pyramid. Even if her image was located on the student level, she did not truly count as one of his believers. She was very ignorant of it, like Zai Junping. However, Cat Eyes was an ability user. Perhaps she instinctively sensed it and was rejecting him. Luo Nan looked at Cat Eyes once more under the five-colored lighting. His impression of her was that she was a pretty and flirtatious dancer. She was dressed in hip-hop fashion, wearing a crooked baseball cap. She looked much younger than the night where she wore that mature dress. She looked cooler as well. If Luo Nan did not have the hexia to confirm in advance and had bumped into her on the street, he would have been completely too scared to call out to her. However, they were in the middle of an operation. Some words were better spoken. "How am I being an idiot?" Cat Eyes responded with a sneer when facing Luo Nan's blunt attitude. "Mr. Psychic, where's your authority to command in this kind of operation? Where's your right to mobilize? Is it fun to act an innocent bystander? You brought in this group of nuisances and then gave up the leadership role to them. You want them to fight." Her words had struck the key point. Luo Nan was left speechless. In the last operation, He Yueyin had pointed out that this situation was what should be avoided the most. He had violated this today, and it was a very serious violation. Last time, the members of the operation did not know who the target was. This time, Xue Weilun and his group of special police officers were completely in the dark. Don't you even have a shred of self-awareness as an ability user? At the very least, your sense of superiority is fine. Cat Eyes was not admonishing him. She was just being sarcastic, though the results were pretty much the same. Luo Nan spread his hands. He did not know how he should respond for a time. "You two, what are you still doing inside?" Xue Weilun walked over with large strides. He was quite discontent with how these two were whispering amongst each other in the light mist, staying behind. Of course, he was still bewildered by the illogical situation. He brought out his most straightforward and efficient attitude to face this. "I don't care what relationship you two have. When facing the police, you need to cooperate. Luo Nan, explain for me, what sort of monkey show were you just playing at?" This sort of attitude that was like the authority of the establishment and of the older generation was very effective on young people such as Luo Nan. If Luo Nan had to come up with the words by himself, his brain would have exploded. Luckily, he had Cat Eyes by his side. Luo Nan pushed this woman out without the slightest hesitation. "The time for you to display the superiority of an ability user has come." And Cat Eyes didn't refuse. "At least this old man is much smarter than you." The two went out of the light mist at the same time. Then Cat Eyes then took the initiative to face Xue Weilun and engage in negotiations. Luo Nan was not concerned about how the negotiations would go. He believed that Cat Eyes, being a veteran ability user, would certainly be able to resolve things. Right now, he was placing all his energy towards the projected light mist and the covered area. Ultimately, he was more suitable for doing technical work. Cat Eyes regarded this area covered with the light mist to be the most dangerous area of all. This was because the human-faced arachnid was concealing itself within it. She did not know which direction it would launch an attack from. However, Luo Nan had a different perspective. Luo Nan had locked onto the human-faced arachnid's position ever since it had first appeared. It made no difference whether the arachnid was inside or outside the mist. If there was a difference, it would probably be a stronger clarity. In the eyes of others, the projected light mist would obstruct their sight. But in Luo Nan's eyes, the light mist was a completely different revealing method. The chaos and the mottled colors could only be said to be the inherent nature of the operational method of energy and information with the lack of cognition. The projected rays of light possessed a special organized form. They could naturally be classified as a type of energy and information, one that could be directly observed. It was because of this that Luo Nan could see the structural layout within through his mental senses. He could easily see lines as if they were on the palm of his hand. He could see minute details down to the finest hair. Another tower of Babel-esque structure. It is far more refined than the chipset of the tactical helmet. However, there is a huge distance between it and the perfect layout of the dynamo core. Luo Nan used a picky attitude to make a judgment towards the quality of the structure within the projected light mist. Because of this, Luo Nan was entirely relaxed when the projection of light mist covered the area. If things were not so, how would he have the leisure to go chat with Cat Eyes about him being an idiot? There was a problem for those who had created this projection. They were unable to see Luo Nan's intentions. The structure they had cast only contained a special and key purpose. Luo Nan could see it very clearly. When the human-faced arachnid had collided inside, it had realized an extremely perfect fit with the structure of energy and information. It was like the teeth of gears biting together, like a train entering a track. The arachnid began to be corrected and amended according to the mold of the projected light mist. The primal and chaotic information structure of the human-faced arachnid was becoming clearer as it was being affected by the light mist. Luo Nan could see the energy and information's direction in operation. Energy and information were rapidly pulling away from the material plane. The idiotic action of the human-faced arachnid, trying to interfere with the material plane, was forcefully pulled back. Why was the word forcefully used? Because there was another component within the extremely well-fit whole of this energy and information structure. It radiated incompatible information from beginning to end, like random noise occurring on a smooth operating assembly line. It felt jarring and ear-piercing. Could it be that the arachnid was a so-called defective good? Luo Nan raised the precision of his mental senses by a level and was ultimately able to determine that this flawed component laid in the internals of the human-faced arachnid. It looked to lie in a rather vital functioning area. In an instant, Luo Nan grasped the core of the situation. The internals of the human-faced arachnid. Is he having fun? Chapter 99, Sweeper 1/2. Translator Strivon. From Luo Nan's perspective, the human-faced arachnid was a chaotic mass and a mystery. Luo Nan's dynamo core had gained a new function 10 days ago. It had begun to analyze the human-faced arachnid. Despite making repeated breakthroughs, reaping gains, and gaining several reference points, he was still unable to get past 7% in the analysis. Even so, there were probably only a few people more knowledgeable about human-faced arachnids than Luo Nan. Even Luo Nan, with his understanding of the human-faced arachnid, found it difficult to have even an outline of the core inner structure of the human-faced arachnid. The closest he had come towards understanding it was during the process of his wraith sign consuming the blood-flame order's human-faced arachnid. Luo Nan had believed that he had seen the mysteries of the human-faced arachnid's inner structure at the time. However, in retrospect, what he had seen was merely the projected mold of the blood-flame order's blood-soul temple. It was a sacrificial vessel prepared ahead of time for the sake of this order. Therefore, Luo Nan was still playing the guessing game when it came to the inner structure of the human-faced arachnid. Occasionally, he would get a bit of an outline, but overall, he was still lost in the shroud that was like a fog that covered a mountain. Right now, Luo Nan would be forced to say a word of admiration regardless of their positions if the enemy, most likely the Order of Justice, was able to take out the inner structure of the human-face arachnid and make exhaustive changes to its operational rules over energy and information. However, Luo Nan really didn't see such a scene before his eyes. The human-faced arachnid had been molded by the mist's complex operational structure of information and energy. It now looked refined and complicated. Following the structural layout, the human-faced arachnid would now be able to use the siege hammer and other methods to stimulate and consume negative emotions. But upon closer inspection, there were too many places that seemed correct that were actually wrong. The theory was correct, but to no surprise, the theory was excessively shallow. From Luo Nan's perspective, the strongest aspect of the human-faced arachnid was the fact that it possessed an innate tyrannical instinct even though it lacked all intelligence. It could completely rely on its instincts to produce astonishingly precise responses. This sort of instinct should be established upon a foundation and inner storage that were robust and faultless. Like an AI system, effective judgments could be produced from vague conditions when possessing a sufficiently large database. The inner data stored within this human-faced arachnid before his eyes was far too lacking. Though this was a realistic emulated model, Luo Nan deduced from some of the surface patterns that it was just a padded-out object. It was similar in shape and appearance, but the spirit was different. After so long, only an imitation is formed, or in other words, it's an exoskeleton armor on the mental plane. In this case, a powerful instinct is out of the question, and there will certainly be issues with its judgment. Luo Nan analyzed this human-faced arachnid layer by layer, lifting the foundation out into bare air. Ultimately, he was able to confirm that the so-called flawed components were actually the entire structure. In the end, these were the effects. Since it is an exoskeleton armor, a person is needed to control it. The problem is, a blockhead who is hard to change in a short period of time was chosen. Not only that, he is completely unsuited to the mental world. They really messed up bad, didn't they? He cast his gaze towards Huang Bingzhen, who laid stark naked within the pile of people. Luo Nan wanted to laugh. Right now, the facts were clear. Huang Bingzhen really was in an out-of-body state. Additionally, he did so by having his soul don the human-faced arachnid exoskeleton armor. All right, this was a good invention. At the very least, it allowed Huang Bingzhen to experience the supernatural for a moment. Oh, wait a minute. An idea flashed across Luo Nan's mind at this very moment. It took his train of thought and twisted it into a different direction. Though this sort of structure is extremely lacking, it still gives one the capability to travel on the mental plane. Additionally, one only needs the relevant materials and methods to achieve it. It definitely could be mass-produced. If someone like Huang Bingzhen could obtain 1/10,000th of the human-faced arachnid's strength and could recklessly come and go and run amok, this is such a great temptation for an ordinary person who lacks the gift for the supernatural. Luo Nan looked at the human-faced arachnid model as he thought of this. He looked at the flawed components housing Huang Bingzhen's soul, and his expression suddenly changed. Could this be the secret behind the divine and holy powers of this secret order? Several consecutive thoughts spun in his mind, causing him to feel a bit spellbound. At this very moment, a group of people came into the room through the door. They were all wearing police uniforms, but they weren't allocated with exoskeleton armor. Luo Nan couldn't help but crease his brows when he saw the group of people rush inside. He cast a glance at Cat Eyes. It seemed that this negotiator was useless. A human-faced arachnid was being rectified in the room right now. A series of supernatural powers, like the ability, user society, and secret orders, were involved. This group of people were late and useless, and they were just clogging up space right now. The head of the group of police officers had a medium build and a lean physique. He looked intelligent and capable. He came in and reproached, "Old Xue, not only can your special forces team solve cases, they can find cases. You guys are so capable." It looked like Xue had come with the bad intentions, but Xue Weilun did not really say much. This was because these people all were the public security police that should have come out to scene of incidents. There really was suspicion that Xue Weilun's team, the special forces, had gone beyond their authority by taking action. Moreover, the person who had arrived was the chief of the Fudong Department branch. Frost River Reality was really part of his administrative domain. Xue Weilun's actions were extremely taboo. Guo, the situation occurred abruptly. These were just temporary preparations. Do not blame me. Xue Weilun was the type of person to give face when it was due. However, there were urgent matters of high priority that had to be handled at this time. His gaze cuts towards Cat Eyes, who he had finished negotiating with. He was filled with complicated thoughts. His gaze then swept to Luo Nan's face in the close distance. In the end, he made a firm resolution. "Guo, there's some matters I need to talk about. We suspect that there has been a Darksider life form roaming about here just a moment ago." "Darksider life form, I know, someone made a report." Guo held a very calm attitude. From his perspective, Darksider life forms were on the same level as a common thief, a gang member, and so on. He felt that they were no different. His chin nodded towards the glowing mist within the projection area. "This falls out of our scope of responsibility. The military will arrive soon to take over. They are the true professionals." A problem for professionals being resolved by professional people was a method that Xue Weilun approved. The problem was that there was clearly already a professional person by his side. Cat Eyes' attire did not instill confidence, but the strength that she had displayed earlier and the connections she had mentioned in their conversation already caused a sense of trustworthiness to be formed. "Guo, I have already verified with headquarters. I too have verified, so I have come to clear the scene." Guo waved his hand, and robotic electronic sounds rang out from outside the door. Frost River Reality were allocated with their own multipurpose robots. Like hard-working worker bees, the robots entered the room one after another, following their pre-programmed procedures. They locked onto the familiar figures within the projected mist. I have received orders to first ensure that the innocent masses won't be affected. Those who need to be sent to the hospital will be sent there now to avoid any mishaps that may happen. After all, a long night is fraught with dreams. We will make up some illness for those without symptoms to get them out fast. Right, old Xue, you can withdraw your team now. Chapter 99, Sweeper 2/2. Translator, Strivon. Xue Weilun watched the multipurpose robots unfold stretchers and enter the scene one after another. He squinted his eyes for a moment. What's to be done about the scene of the incident? Technicians have already taken pictures and saved them for records. The Darksider life form is a Class III mutant. With it hiding and the military about to enter the scene, how can we have the space to handle this case? Is the ambulance here yet? Ship them all out. Have all unrelated personnel leave the scene. Guo responded with these simple words, and his orders were subsequently transmitted down the chain of command. Immediately, the multipurpose robots entered the operating area to move the unconscious bodies. Two of the robots were in charge of tidying up the scene. They separated the pile of human bodies and moved them onto stretchers. The rest of the robots departed like a running assembly line. They took the unconscious He Yueyin and the others and sent them off one after another. They handled things quite cleanly. Several Special Forces officers were looking at Xue Weilun. Xue Weilun indicated with his hand to withdraw from the room first. In any case, if there was really a Darksider life form hiding here, the Special Forces would not be much use. Xue Weilun did not remove himself from the scene, though the reasoning behind Guo's order to directly clear the scene was passable. There were some subtleties to the timing. The way things were going was quite suspicious. In clearing the scene, Guo did not just want the unconscious bodies to be taken out, he also wanted the others to go outside as well. The Special Forces had all left the room, and the only ones left were Luo Nan and Cat Eyes. These two people did not move an inch. Luo Nan had his mind on some other things, but when Guo and the robots came into the scene one after another, a change had occurred within the projected glowing mist. It drew his attention over once again, and he fixed his gaze onto the projected mist, his expression showing his utter concentration. Cat Eyes scanned the situation with interest due to the sudden liveliness of the room. Neither one of them took Guo's appearance seriously. That was until the police personnel followed Guo's request and appeared by their side, asking them to leave the scene. Luo Nan's observations were interrupted once again, and he became a bit annoyed. He cast his gaze towards Cat Eyes, his meaning clear. This is the result of your negotiations. Cat Eyes gave him the middle finger. The nature of things has long since changed, all right. Wait and you'll see the notification from the society in due time. Right now the issue with the human-faced arachnid is no longer that of hunting a Darksider life form. Instead, it involves contention with some secret orders. Oh, don't get too close. She pushed away the innocent and ignorant police officers by her side as she walked to Luo Nan. Meanwhile, the police officers in charge of vacating the scene saw Luo Nan and that he was still a teenager. They were not really rough. They just wanted to grab Luo Nan by the shoulder and drag this bizarre kid with a drifting expression out of here. Cat Eyes made a police officer stumble a few steps and collide into his co-worker when she arrived. Luo Nan was ignorant of the situation occurring outside his body. However, he approved of Cat Eye's words about secret orders from the bottom of his heart. He already had an understanding of the circumstances with the Bloodflame Order. The minds behind this human-faced arachnid before his eyes was absolutely not just the Bloodflame Order. Let alone today's Order of Justice, there were at least 2 to 3 secret orders operating in this field. It seemed that over the course of the night, the human-faced arachnid had become a precious treasure fought over by the world's secret orders. At the very least, it was a rare target worth hoarding. Guo had appeared, and he had a direct relationship with some medium to small-scale secret orders. These orders had a commonality, a lack of sacrificial vessels. It was unknown where the information that the human-faced arachnid could act as a sacrificial vessel had come from. Even within the Bloodflame Order, this matter was kept hush and secret. It was never directly mentioned. Relatively speaking, the sudden involvement of the colossal giant that was the Order of Justice was a bit unexpected for Luo Nan. From what he could understand from the current situation, the Order of Justice seemed to be engaging in some sort of emulation research of the human-faced arachnid. Were they developing a new faith product? In this moment, the atmosphere within the room suddenly turned taut. No matter how much Cat Eyes tried to play things down, the implications behind her words were extremely serious. Several police officers at the scene had their hands placed on their guns. They did not whip out their guns and fire on the spot, but this was because Xue Weilun stopped them. Hold on, Guo. They are important witnesses, and they are experts with their privileges verified by headquarters and the SCA. There are so many experts nowadays that you could make a mountain out of them. Guo had an ugly expression, but in the end he knew some internal information. Even though he was appointed as the man in charge, he could not go around stepping on mines and offending people. It was absolutely unacceptable. The situation was tense and at a deadlock for a time. Cat Eyes squinted an eye. Her overall meaning was, what do we do now? Luo Nan was also puzzled over what to do in the current situation. In any case, there really was a bit of temporary quietness for now. He grew increasingly certain that he would not be able to control the situation. He might as well just give up and pour his full concentration to the technical side of things. Little did he know that in the eyes of the others, his stance of completely ignoring the ways of the world and being soaked in his own world made him appear to be super arrogant and dangerous. Guo's gaze had already swept away from Cat Eyes to land onto Luo Nan's face. He carefully observed the direction that Luo Nan was looking at, and his expression turned as somber as water. By now, Luo Nan's gaze had locked onto one of the multi-purpose robots within the room. It was together with another robot. They were responsible for lifting people. After these robots had entered the room, they came and went from the operating area, moving responsibly and diligently. Luo Nan had no complaints about the robots themselves. However, when the robot had entered the operating area, the stable operational structure of energy and information underwent a change within the projected glowing mist. A large flow of energy and information suddenly leaked down into an unremarkable external reception module upon the robot's body. This sort of transfer of energy and information was hard to detect, even for people with astonishing extrasensory perception like Cat Eyes, let alone the common person. However, it could not be hidden from Luo Nan. This was quite the eye-opener. This method took something that existed on the mental plane, completely transformed it into energy and information, and downloaded it into a special storage unit. It appeared to be inconceivable, but it was actually quite logical. It was the reverse operation of the Tower of Babel structure. The subtleties within really needed to be seriously researched. Guo had stayed hidden all this time until he suddenly appeared to vacate everyone from the scene. His intentions were very clear now. He was trying to retrieve a prototype after real testing and verification. Luo Nan did not stop the process. He wanted to continue observing. This was because he understood very well that there was a certain node that could not be bypassed. Although the human-faced arachnid exoskeleton armor could be reconstructed, downloaded, and stored, the same absolutely could not be done to the soul of a human. Layers and layers of the structure were reconstructed, transformed into pure energy and information, before being imported into the storage unit. The flawed component, Huang Bingzhen, that was concealed within the interior of the human-faced arachnid exoskeleton armor were inevitably exposed. A mass of fuzzy smoke suddenly separated from the framework of the operational structure of energy and information. First, it condensed into a cloud, bringing with it a brightness that could be barely seen on the mental plane. The cloud stalled in the air for a moment, and then crashed into Huang Bingzhen's body, which was being prepared for transfer out of the grounds. This was quite the good timing. Luo Nan knew that this was Huang Bingzhen's soul. It seemed to be wrapped with a layer of special protection, avoiding the tragedy that came from a dropping crash. The Order of Justice's faith product plan was actually quite humane. He had no intentions to interfere. He just observed with full interest. However, things would always go wrong. After separating from the mysterious human-faced arachnid exoskeleton armor, Huang Bingzhen's tiny soul made a mistake by habit. He was too close to the material plane. Normally, this would not be a problem. Normally, all he had to do was get in range of the fleshly body, and the soul and the flesh would unite as one. Everything would be okay. However, Luo Nan and Cat Eyes were both presently in the room. Cat Eyes' mental senses instantly cut across upon suddenly discovering a suspicious target. She wanted to lock on for a scan. This was a very natural reaction, but from the perspective of the weak structure of Huang Bingzhen's soul, this action was like a whip that heavily lashed down. Chapter 100, Heartlock Prison, Part 1-2. Translator, Strivon. Cat Eyes' expertise laid in her long-ranged perception. This was also a kind of mental sensing. With her all-encompassing perception, she could cover a range of 50 to 70 meters. However, this was different to Luo Nan's clairvoyance-type sensing. Her level of sensing was primarily focused on the region where the mental and the material planes mutually interacted. She was unable to sense the deeper parts of the mental plane, so it was hard for her to reach a target that hid in the extreme depths of the mental plane that was far from the material plan, such as the human-faced arachnid. However, Cat Eyes intrinsically possessed an extremely high degree of sensing precision and powerful penetration capabilities at her level of sensing. She was just like a high-power active radar system that was powerful enough to cover the entire city. Huang Bingzhen could not endure it because her output power was a bit too much. What the hell? Cat Eyes reacted quite quickly, and she soon became aware that something was amiss. She retracted her mental senses and restrained it to an appropriate level. This prevented Huang Bingzhen from burning along with the exterior layer of protective shell. However, it was not easy to completely retract a mental attack spurred by telepathy. On the spot, Huang Bingzhen let out a miserable howl, in the mental plane. The protective shell around his weak soul jolted twice. Its structure had seemingly taken damage, but the shell was not broken, for better or worse. If this guy was smart at all, he would have taken this chance to immediately slip back into his own fleshly body, thereby ending things. But today was bound to be filled with matters. Huang Bingzhen had not been tempered by the seas and its winds. He was still inexperienced. He was not familiar with the workings of the mental plane. When he was hit by the attack, he just froze there in foolishness. He did not advance, nor did he retreat. Additionally, his miserable howl had traveled some distance on the mental plane. He had more or less broadcasted a signal. Cat Eyes and Luo Nan looked at each other in dismay as a storm suddenly erupted on the mental plane. Tyrannical mental senses came cutting in from a long range. It first broke through Cat Eye's all-encompassing perception with its radius of 70 meters. The powerful pressure caused Cat Eye's expression to suddenly change color. The enemy's mental attack came steamrolling in, as if there was no one to oppose it at all. Cat Eyes might have been an expert of perception, but she was lacking in her ability to defend on the mental plane. She would not be able to meet force with force there. However, such a powerful action by the opponent also conveyed one's position extremely clearly. The enemy's mental senses cut through the private room in an instant, and the enemy examined the rooms in a situation unimpeded. Its power pressed against Cat Eyes' senses and reduced the range of Cat Eyes' senses. A formidable foe, one with a mental enhancement focus. Cat Eyes telepathically left a message in the encrypted channel. His was the quickest and most effective method of exchanging information since it was instantaneous. However, the channel refreshed with new messages the instant she left her message. The enemy's main body has entered within 30 meters of range. The enemy's speed is very fast, and the enemy possesses great power and energy. Damn it all. It's an all-rounder type. Avoid direct engagement. Order the special police forces to provide assistance. Pertinent orders and privileges have been issued. He Yueyin responded. He Yueyin had masterfully conducted the deployment and mobilization of personnel from the very beginning. Even though Luo Nan had not listened to her orders and had gotten involved in the situation, He Yueyin was constantly performing appropriate adjustments in real time. She was utilizing nearby resources to maximum efficiency so as to increase the operation's margin of safety. Cat Eyes obviously knew that avoiding direct engagement was an excellent decision. The problem was that the opponent would not spare them even if she wanted to pull back. Huang Bingzhen's miserable howl might have touched upon a sensitive nerve of this opponent, because the mental senses instantly transformed into an attack after scanning the entire room. It was like a wave. It was like a storm. The might of an assaulting attack was truly displayed. There was a problem, though. Such actions would cause disaster to befall not on others, but on Huang Bingzhen. The previous inadvertent release of mental senses by Cat Eyes was almost too much for Huang Bingzhen. The opponent's current mental attack, which was like the raging seas and stormy waves, came pressing over. From Huang Bingzhen's perspective, he would drown and perish. His already weak defenses were just like a soap bubble. It could burst at any moment. No matter how stupid Huang Bingzhen was, he knew that he was in dire straits now. He immediately let out another howl of misery. However, this action was useless. His bubble-like defenses burst, and a wisp of smoke spread out. At first, It was very hard to make out Huang Bingzhen's appearance, but the smoke soon lost its form as it trembled and dispersed. Luo Nan knew that after Huang Bingzhen's soul had come out of his body, the structure of his soul was not resilient enough. He had stuck too close to the material plane. As a result, he was dispersed by the power that interfered between the mental and material planes. Huang Bingzhen was an ordinary person. He had never trained in the mental domain. He could not even have his soul take form by himself. As such, when he had lost his protective shell, his soul did not have any ability to exist any longer. In addition, the external world was like a whistling storm. The environment of the mental plane was vile to the extreme. The opponent had heard Huang Bingzhen's miserable howl at this time, yet they had no intentions of stopping their attack. The mental attack continued, and it completely suppressed Cat Eye's. Cat Eye's sensing range was shrinking smaller and smaller. It was to the point that her range was now confined to the room. She had lost all perception of what was going on outside the room. Damnable fiend! Cat Eye's grit her teeth in anger. She was bad against these kinds of brute force mental attacks. She was most accustomed to combining her hypersensory perception with her nimble and strong body in order to fight for the initiative during high-speed movement. But right now, she had a half-useless fool by her side. She could not even draw out 5% of her ability in fear of causing friendly fire. She felt extremely wronged. The opponent was extremely keen as well. As soon as the decisive moment had occurred, the opponent did not give Cat Eye's any chance to adjust. The rapidly approaching figure turned erratic in Cat Eye's perception due to the all-around suppressive force. It made Cat Eyes quite worry about when and where this powerful enemy would be coming from. Cat Eyes cast a glare towards Luo Nan. She should have known that nothing good would come upon following this fellow. Rattle! A marvelous trembling sound shook forth and proliferated the mental plane. Cat Eye's scalp went numb the instant she heard this sound. Her defenses, which were already in danger, instantly fell to pieces. Right when the recoil was about to strike her, a similar vibration responded from the depths of the structure of her body and soul. Incorporeal chains activated from a state of hibernation to erect a framework in an instant that was too marvelous to describe with words. It was like the stable frame of a building. The frame towered unmovingly, no matter how wild the gales blew. The life-threatening recoil from her broken defenses was dispersed for some odd reason, and the tyrannical mental attack did not seem to be as strong as before. Although Cat Eyes lacked the strength to counterattack, it was as if she was completely immune to the mental attack. The extremely atrophied range of her mental senses began to regain their lost area. They began to expand outwards layer by layer. Chem, the powerful enemy, also discovered this situation. A low nasally sound was transmitted not on the mental plane, but on the material plane, letting everyone in the room hear the sound very clearly. So the enemy was extremely close already. Cat Eyes finally got the chance to catch her breath and immediately went to complete He Yueyin's series of orders to the very end. She spoke loudly, "Captain Xue, put all your energy into being vigilant. The killer is close by." She did not care about being completely factual. It was best to just get the point across. In any case, Huang Bingzhen's soul was scattered. He was 90% dead anyway. It wasn't really a lie. But as soon as Cat Eyes spoke those words, dark chains came surging across like a giant raging python. They pierced through the void and struck Huang Bingzhen's near-dispersed smoke-like soul dead on. That's a wrap for this installment. Thank you all for watching and supporting Lord of the Stories. If you enjoyed this tale, please hit the like button, share it, and subscribe for more amazing stories. You can also explore other series updated daily in our playlists. Have a fantastic day and see you in the next episode.